So it's hot. So I'd love to be wearing jerseys for all my videos today. But as I've been saying recently, as the heat cranks up, you'll see more t-shirts. Probably going to be a lot of metal t-shirts. There'll be hockey t-shirts too. Don't worry. Don't get weirded out. There will be hockey t-shirts. So, let me just put a number up on the board here. Can you see that? Nope. We can't. Let me do it this way. See? There you go. 1614. See that? East. West. Now, Gary Bettman came out and said a lot of things. Bill Daly said a lot of things. So, Vegas is being added to make this 15. They part of the reason apparently that Quebec isn't getting a team is because that would make this number 17. Now here's the interesting thing. and it's fine. It's fine. It's not a problem. But it kind of is. When we came out of the lockout and they'd done a realignment and there were 16 teams in the East and 14 in the West, fans in the East were kind of choked. And I agreed with them. I still agree with them. Why not? Fans in the East are people too. It's not just us out in the West. The East respects us. We respect the East. Good situation. But here's the thing. When we came out of the lockout, and it was 16-14, and Gary Bettman was asked, does this mean the NHL is going to expand to 32 teams due to the imbalance? His answer was, we don't think the imbalance is a problem. We have no intention of expansion. And I'm not going to link it to all the articles because it was all over the place. It didn't make any sense. This didn't make any sense. Like, I get it. Columbus and Detroit wanted to be in the East. That's fine. Just like when Toronto moved to the East from the West. It didn't make any sense to have Toronto in the Western Conference. But when they came out of the lockout, they said 16-14 is fine. Having a situation where it's easier for a team in the West to make the playoffs than a team in the East, that's fine. Doesn't bother anybody. NHLPA backed everybody up. Everybody's fine. It's not a big deal. But now, so now to hear that Bill Daly is saying you can't add the Quebec Nordiques to the East until somebody moves from the East to the West. I'm confused. Because they took money from Quebec for that bid. Now, Quebec was fine with that bid being deferred because, you know, Canadian dollar being where it is and Brian Mulroney being one of the owners just baffled me. But still, the logic is not consistent. Because if 16-14 is okay, then 17-15 is okay. Now, I never liked 16-14. I didn't. But I didn't know which of the 16 teams in the East to move to the West. Couldn't justify Detroit. I couldn't justify Columbus. I couldn't justify Toronto. Clearly. I've often thought it would be fun if you had a Canadian division, a Southern division, and an East and West division. But you know what? That doesn't work either. That would be a nightmare for travel. Canadian teams would just get burned right out. And then you create a situation where you could likely have one Final Four team out of Canada and never anything more than that. So, either the NHL was lying coming out of the lockout, and they intended to expand to make it 16-16, or they're lying now. There's no way around it. And that's what bothers me. Now, you know, other things that came out was they're looking at the coaches' challenge and the offside challenges. And again, Bettman's just all, everything's fine. In the Olympics? We're not going to the Olympics. Now he wasn't negotiating. Oh, we were never negotiating. This was never a negotiation. We were telling them how it's going to be. We don't care what the IIHF or the NHLPA are saying right now. This is how it's going to be. This is all ramping up to another bloody lockout. Are you kidding me? All the rhetoric, I've heard it before. I've been listening to it since 1995. I know this stuff. It's ramping up to a lockout. And I'm not sure how it relates to the idea of a Quebec team coming in. See, the ownership group that wanted to bring a team to Quebec has made no public overture, as far as I know, about continuing that process. It just doesn't make sense right now. But, again, for Bill Daly to say, well, we need a team to move west. Well, who? Carolina? Moves to Kansas City? Or Cleveland? Like, who? The NHL doesn't let teams move. And I've praised them for that. On some level. Makes sense. It makes sense to praise them for that. For keeping things stable and making sure that all of your fan bases are sure their team's going to be there tomorrow. So, by saying we're not going to put a team in Quebec until we can make the board balance at 16-16, you're saying we will never put a team in Quebec. That's what I hear. Which is weird because they took Quebec's money. They were fine with taking Quebec's money and letting them get past level 1 of the expansion process. They made round 2 or level 2 or whatever the hell they were calling it. It doesn't matter. It's dead in the water. Why allow it? If the board behind me doesn't make sense, if 17-15 doesn't work, why allow it? Were they going to move somebody west? Because they made deals with Columbus and Detroit that they would not move them back into the west. So what was the plan? Was there a plan? Is this a league that pretends it has a plan? That lockout's not that long ago. And they came out with that unbalanced conference. The 16-14 split that everybody looked at and went, okay. Why? And it made for weird scheduling. 16-16 works. I agree, 100%. Why wasn't it 15-15 coming out of the lockout? Why was 16-14 okay then? And 17-15 isn't now? And if some other city in the East, some American city came out with $1 billion and said, we'll join, is the NHL really going to go, we like your $1 billion, but we can't do 17-15? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think so. I think what we're looking at here is an NHL that is still broken somehow. We've gone through so many lockouts. We lost a season in 2004-2005. We lost partial seasons in 94-95, and I think it was 13-14 was when we lost half a season. And we're still not functioning. There's still something wrong. Oh, the league expands. It'll keep expanding. You know, when I was a kid, it was a 16-team league, and it was a 21-team league, and now it's a 31-team league. But it's weird because you still got players don't seem to like the owners don't seem to like the players, and nobody seems to trust one another. And I've said before, Bettman just speaks for the owners. So who is it that said this is okay and this isn't? Is this a Jeremy Jacobs thing? I don't think he's got that kind of sway. I don't think he cares. As long as the money's rolling in, I don't think Jeremy Jacobs cares one way or the other. It is a weird, strange, odd, really baffling comment for Bill Daly to say, well, that would be an imbalance. You guys had an imbalance for years. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when every division had 5 and the Patrick division had 6. And your top 4 made it to the playoffs. So if there was a good team that missed the playoffs, they were probably coming out of the Patrick division. And oddly enough, that Patrick division is what is now the Metro division. The teams are very, very similar in terms of their makeup and their talent levels. So you'd watch Washington, Pittsburgh, Jersey, Rangers make the playoffs. The Islanders miss. The Islanders being way better than the teams that made it in the other 3 divisions. It wasn't fair. It was an unfair system. And it was that way for years. So for the NHL now to say, well, we can't allow a Quebec team in because that would imbalance things, is odd. And it's the thing that stuck out to me above the Olympic participation. It's over. And now here's the problem. There are individual owners that are saying, we will let our players go. And the NHL said today, without saying it, no, you're not. How was it, Bettman? I'm going to look at how Bettman phrased it. I think there'll be a league-wide policy on Olympic participation. I think there'll be a league-wide policy that will ensure all of our players will be playing in the NHL next year. That's what Daly said. What Bettman said was, we have an expectation that none of our players are going, but I don't want to get into the gymnastics involved and what that means. There's no reason to pick that fight right now. It's sort of like at my work, we're changing ownership, and somebody said, hey, so if a new company's coming in to take over, what does that do to our seniority? And they dodged the question. They didn't want to pick that fight right now. They know exactly what they're doing. Just like the NHL knows exactly what's going on with the NHL and with the players, they're not going to the Olympics, and if they do, they're going to get suspended or fined. And if owners let them go, those owners are going to get fined heavily. I do find it funny when I see comments from Bill Daly and Bettman talking about the integrity of the NHL regular season and wanting to ensure that everything's all fine and dandy. You guys don't mind squashing the schedule down for a bloody World Cup. You didn't mind squashing the schedule down for the last 5 Olympics. But now this one, Pyongyang? Oh no. We can't squash the schedule down. Integrity of the NHL is at stake. We're not shutting down for 17 days. That's weird. Because for the last 20 years, it wasn't a problem. They seemed excited about it. And they're promoting the Chinese games after the Korean ones. You know they're going to China. I don't get it. I don't get it. I can understand wanting to promote your game in China more than Korea. Your odds of inspiring people to watch your game are bigger in China. It's a much bigger population. It's a bigger country. But I just find the entire conversation weird. I find the whole Bettman Daly thing weird. And I'd like to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about this? Because I think 17-15 is a little fairer than 16-14. They're both lopsided. But it's weird that the NHL says, well, there have to be relocation when the NHL doesn't allow relocation. They're not going to allow relocation. Unless they know something we don't. Unless there's some kind of a back channel where the New York Islanders have already said, hey, we'll move to Seattle, just get them an arena first. So Seattle gets a team handed to them while Quebec has to pay $1 billion to get one. Is that where we're headed? Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing around. And I tell you, we're getting close to the postseason, but I'm telling you, or we're getting close to the offseason. But as I said, you don't run out of hockey things to talk about on a hockey channel, even during the summer. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all again soon.